What's up, team of heroes? It's so cool because right now, as we start, we're locked in at 300 live participants, which I just think is so cool. Spartan up. I have my beautiful wife here with me today. Kiss your wife, target swipe. Let's go. We got Michael. We've got the team behind the scenes. And I'm going to change my view so I'm not seeing me. I want to see you. And welcome you to the party. Lisa B, Gita, Heidi, Kimmy, Lax, Patrice, Aki, Christo, iPad 5, Lily Royal. Good to see you. Jeremy, Jocelyn, Beth, Patrick, Jose, Wendy, Brian, Jessica, Kathy, Meredith, Mark, Screen One, everybody else. I appreciate you being here. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We're going to talk about heroic, elite, you activated after we flip the switch and connect to the best, most heroic version of ourselves. One of the main things we're going to do among many, many, many new kind of next level things is bring Alexandra in, bring her feminine energy in, have a women's track where you all are being served the way you deserve to be served with her wisdom, her discipline, her love, her courage. So I'm not going to flip the switch. Can you flip the switch real quick? Yeah. Put it on the spot. You know, we're just going there. Just, maybe 60 seconds. Let's just drop in and connect.
Awesome. All right, everybody, close your eyes. You're in a space where you can. I see some people walking, so maybe not a good idea if you're walking. Just take one slow, deep inhale. Hold. Slow exhale. Releasing any stress or tension you may be holding. Take another slow, deep breath. Flipping the switch. Connecting to that heroic, elite, best version of yourself. Seeing it in your mind, feeling it in your body. Then imagine high-fiving all the people on this call right now. When you're ready, open up your eyes. Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. Target swipe. You can do 2 in a day. Kiss your wife. Let's go.
Fancy.
I'm winning. We're winning. I wish we were all in person, being able to kind of high five and be together. As you know, all of you who have been together with us in person is next level. But I'm excited to be here virtually. We're approaching 400 right now, by the way, which is fun. Heroic Elite. You activated. We're gonna really quickly, I'm going to give you an overview of what I'm thinking, and then I want to spend as much time as we can answering your questions. So I'll give you a high level kind of overview. We're scheduled for 30 minutes, and I will be here until the very last question. So, but I want to make sure I get, the overview done quickly, so you leave with a sense of what we're doing, and then we'll have some questions. If you know you have a question already, please enter it in the chat. Team will make sure we address it, etc. So, heroically, you activate. It's a 101-day program. All the other things we've been talking about in the overview. But most importantly, it's hard to put into words how powerful this is for me. And I used the word in an email, I think it was yesterday. And yeah, I know we're sending out some emails. We want you to understand what we're doing, how we're thinking about it, how important this is to us. I don't throw this word around lightly, but I said it feels destined. I've had a few moments and I get tears in my eyes, goosebumps saying that. I've had a few moments in my life where I just knew, and I shared the story about business stuff. I had the same feeling with her, right? But I mentioned, when I started my first business, I started Philosopher's Notes. I started a few things in my life, making history with Heroic. There was just this sense where it didn't feel like it was me guiding the show. It felt like there was something deeper. And again, I get emotional even talking about it at work. And it's very difficult for me to put into words the difference between that feeling and another feeling of it's a pretty good idea. Like coach, as cool as coach was in class one, and so many of you were part of class one, that had a feeling, but not this feeling. So this feels like, for me, at the risk of being hyperbolic, but really not, the opportunity for me to distill every single thing that I have studied, I have practiced, I have attempted to master, all the ancient wisdom, all the modern science, the theory, to practice, to mastery, where the coaching program, all the content we create, the plus ones, the philosopher's notes 101, I'm proud of that. It's a lot of theory. It's an overwhelming amount of theory. The coach program, really proud of that. We've scientifically proven, as you know, but it's 300 days. It's a lot. And it's a lot of theory. It's a lot of content, and it's a lot even over that period of time. This is tight. It's the most intense, practical, results-oriented program I've ever contemplated creating. Again, it just feels like the distillation that kind of meets people where they're at and helps them activate, which leads me to I have three things I'm going to describe in the overview. And the first most important thing I have to do is I have to convince you you're elite. I absolutely, let's put hands down for now, just so I'm not having my attention tugged that way right now. I have to convince you that you are elite. And I've shared playfully my annoyance to the feedback we get, where I talk a lot about, elite military officers, Fortune 500 executives. I see some of them here right now, huge successful entrepreneurs, athletes, coaches, all these people that aren't you, they're elite. And not everybody here has this story in their heads, but goosebumps again, that frustrates me, to be direct. It is not negotiable to me. You are elite. You are the hero we've been waiting for. Like, I mean that earnestly. That's the Paulo Coelho. It's the one thing he's certain of. There are no ordinary people. All of us are extraordinary. You may or may not believe that yet, but I have to get you to the point where you believe that you are in potentiality, at the very least, elite. And if I can't do that, then I've failed, period. And not only failed in terms of recruiting people to join this particular program, but I failed, period. We will not change the world without more and more and more of us looking in the mirror and seeing ourselves as the hero we've been waiting for. Looking outside of ourselves and expecting someone else, like Michael, who does what he does, or you look at me and think, well, Brian can do that, I can't, or that person. I'm committed to letting Mr. Rogers, who's on my wall back there, kind of take a back seat and being more intense without dropping any F-bombs or any cursing, right? But if I can't do that, we are politely screwed. We have to, each of us, see that potentiality. We're calling it elite. We could call it whatever we want to call it, but it's deliberately a bit in your face. I'm wearing a t-shirt that says elite on it. Swag is happening. Very important sign that things are coming together. That's pretty bold, right? That's deliberate, and there's a humility in it, because when I tell people, and I've got a +1, I don't think it came out yet, but when I tell people, you think you're at an 8, but you're really at a 2, there are two different responses to that. There's the, oh my God, you just told me I'm only a 2, right? The fixed mindset, ashamed, they think I'm criticizing them. Then there's the elite response to that, which is, oh, wow. One of the admirals who introduced me, Admiral Selects, who introduced me to a team of commanding naval officers I'll be talking about soon, who will be part of elite, told me, when I told him that, his internal dialogue was, them's fighting words. And that's how he introduced me to the 100 commanding officers and the spouses that I was blessed to serve. That's how I want you to respond to it. That is not a criticism of you. That is a celebration of your potentiality. The most elite people I work with are the most coachable. They're the ones who get excited. They know that there's always room. There's always an opportunity to go to the next level of elite. Now, having said that, well, let me make the point one more time, then I'll move on. I gotta wake you up to the fact that you are elite. I must do that. And then help you move up from wherever you are to wherever you want to go. And the program has to meet you wherever you are. So the way we're architecting it, again, the details are outside the scope of this quick intro, but we're going to have a foundation level, we call it, which is like a floor. And then you got the elite level, which is like your ceiling. And you're going to find where you live in that in different aspects of your life. And it's going to be perfect wherever you are. Foundation, basic, you could do this. Elite. So it's kind of like, Michael and his dad have become the way I'm architecting this thing. Michael is like next level elite. And he's actually going to have his own track. I'm going to do the base. Alexander will have women. Michael's going to do the crazy ones track. Michael runs a Spartan race. He finishes first in our entire group. We've made history. We're in the top 3 of our teams are the top like 5 in history, definitely top 10. Michael, I think he finished 2nd or 3rd overall at the Spartan race without training, but he's the first in our team. But you know what Michael does? Well, at first he says, keep up with me if you can. So if you want to keep up with Michael, we'll have that track, which is like crazy elite. But then Michael circles back and he comes back and he finishes with the last participant. No one's left behind. And we literally had in one race, the first place finisher and the last place finisher. And they were all perfect and they were all elite goosebumps. And I'm most proud of the last place finisher because that person told me she almost didn't show up, and she did. And she got through every obstacle with our help and with her initiative, et cetera. So you got to be awake to the fact that you are elite, number 1. Number 2, I need to wake you up to the fact that this is not a dress rehearsal. It's what I do and everything we do. I always start with quick trip to hell. Not a dress rehearsal, folks. I turned 51 on May 22nd of 2025. And that's about 101 days, 140 days from the new year. So I'm going to share with you in a different conversation what my targets are for my 51st birthday. But wake up. This isn't a dress rehearsal. 2025, that's a cool year. I'm excited about what can we do in 2025 together? What can we do over 101 days? So I need to ensure that you see a hero when you look in the mirror. You are elite. Then I need to wake you up. Number 2, then I need to activate you. Number 3. And this is one of the things I'm most excited about with the program that's most differentiated. So if you've done, all the premium stuff, basic training, you've done Heroic Coach, how is this different? Is a question I would have if I were in your position. Answering that question at a really high level and delivering on our explicit commitment to create the best training program we've ever created, which I believe puts us in a position to create one of, if not the best training programs ever, which is my commitment. Measuring day 1 to day 101, flourishing, how you doing? Big 3, how you doing? We're bringing in biometrics, how you doing? I guarantee you, if you show up even a fraction of what we're going to ask of you, you will significantly improve your levels of flourishing. You will significantly improve your energy, productivity, and connection. And I know that because we've proven it in randomized controlled trial studies. What's up, Marty? We did it with Marty's team. This is how we know this. We took his team, split them up randomly into 2 different groups, had them do a watered down version of what we're going to do together, and we improved every single measure. Randomized controlled trial. You can make causal statements about that. Number 3 is the biometrics. I'm going to send out an email in the next 48 hours saying you don't need to do all those tests. The foundation is waist to height. Spend $1, get a tape measure. You don't even do that. Look at your waist size. Do the math. Is it 0.5? And we're going to talk a lot about this, and particularly for women. No body shaming whatsoever here. None. This is about vitality. And the data is unequivocal. Visceral fat, which is waist to height is a proxy for visceral fat, which is the greatest predictor of your morbidity. That waist to height ratio matters. But you don't need to do the biometrics unless you want to. And we'll also give you the crazy biometrics. You want to know everything that I do and everything that Alexander tells me to do? We'll share that with you too. But there'll be a foundation and an elite and then a crazy on that too. But my confidence in moving you is absolute. And the way the program is different at a foundational level is this. I always objective zero wake you up in basic training, in Heroic Coach, everything. I always do that. Then I usually go objective 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I won't bore you with that because most of you here know what those are. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go from 0 to 7, our soul force. And what usually happens, which is your superpower, you want to be activated? I need your soul force at 101. And what usually happens is, and if we can put the hand down again, that'd be great. What usually happens is, frankly, I kind of exhaust myself and everybody else by the time I get through 1 through 6. I'm proud of the intellectual framework, theoretically, objective 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the book as well. But I get to 7 and I'm like, hey, you live in integrity with that. You activate your soul force. That's the quality that all of our heroes have in common. It's that moral charisma. It's a sense of joyful, eudaimonic, purpose-driven life. This time, I'm skipping all that and I'm going straight to 7. Soul force, the equation. I'm really proud of that. I think it is I intend it to be, and I'm excited about the potential of it being like an operationalized Eckhart Tolle's power of now at a heroic level. So what does that mean to have the power of now? To be blunt and to channel Joseph Campbell, I have no idea. You know, I got some idea. I can be present when I'm washing the dishes, but bubbles coming up from dishes don't fire me up. How do I bring my presence to this moment? I believe we do it through something like our soul force equation. You get your energy to heroic levels, you get your ability to focus to heroic levels, and you focus it on what's important now. And then you do that to the power of consistency. So the entire Heroic Elite program is based on operationalizing that. So what does that mean? Energy, you, the most energized version of yourself. We're going to focus on eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, and focusing, our 5 core fundamentals for energy. We're going to operationalize the key highest leverage habits. I'm going to be prescriptive. I'm going to allow you to figure out your idiosyncratic constraints. You might be plant-based, you might be animal-based, or you might be a blend, but I'm going to challenge you to figure out your nutrition protocol and then stick to it for 101 days. We'll have a foundation, we'll have a ceiling or elite goal, but that's eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, focusing. Each will have its own core high leverage behaviors. Will encourage you and challenge you to execute over 101 days. Longer chat on the details. Focus. How do you get your energy once it's at heroic levels focused? Frankly, that's pretty straightforward. We got to reduce some distractions. We got to train your attention via meditation. We've got AM, PM, 10.1 minute guided meditations we're working on that are heroic. Breathe less to breathe right. Patrick McGowan, my big kind of practice, as you know, all the things you'd expect. Let's get calm. Let's get confident. Let's flip the switch. Energize tranquility. Let's go through the virtue compass. Let's bring your heroes in. Let's see you as your best. What are your hero bars? What's your future? Let's go. Energy, focus, the thing I'm most excited about, and frankly, something that we have fallen short of in everything we've done before, is how do you know what's important now? How do you know? Well, we need to operationalize that. So as you may know, if you follow along, I wrote the foreword to the book on the science of goal setting that just came out called Big Goals. And as I discussed in those notes, SMART goals aren't smart. The science does not support SMART goals. I'm going to talk about why. And the number one reason is they're not hard enough. You have to stretch yourself high, hard. Still needs to be achievable, but it has to be high and hard. So Michael and I are working on what we're calling H3 SMART goal setting or target setting, heroically high, hard, SMART goals. And we are going to systematically help you get clarity on what's important now by helping you understand what your legacy goals are, what your 2051, if you're alive that long, goals look like, what your 2030, what your 2025, the decade, the year, the 101 day goals look like that are heroically high and hard, and then systematically bring that back to now in your energy, your work, and your love. Of course, connecting it to your identity, your virtues, your targets you'll do that will help you prescribe. Michael's working on a heroic journal that's going to be next level to help operationalize masterpiece days. We've got a field guide I'd shared some of the sample sections from, but that's going to be, again, very, very exciting, next level. But that's the gestalt of what we're going to do. I didn't mention the most important variable here. Let me go there. Energy focused on what's important now to the power of what? Consistency. So let's do the math real quick. If your energy is at a 1 because you're making poor lifestyle choices, your ability to focus is completely non-existent because you're a rat responding to more inputs in a single day than your ancestors responded to in the 15th century in their entire lifetime. And you literally can't put your attention anywhere. Science says your ability to shine the spotlight of your attention on what you want for how long you want, is one of the hallmarks of flourishing. Can't do that, good luck. One, energy, oops, can't get out of bed, don't want to get out of bed. Focus sucks, and you have no idea what you want in your life. 1 times 1 times 1. Knowing it's more nuanced than this, and with compassion, but to be blunt, that individual has suicidal ideation. They don't want to get out of bed. They don't know if they want to live another day. 1, 1, 1, goosebumps. And I know that because I've been there, as I've shared. And I also know that we've helped people who have been there or are there move up. This program has to be for those people. Has to be, and it is. Now, what happens when you start moving that up? Then you go from 1 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40, 50, wherever you're starting from, to 60, 70, 80, 90, your version of 101. Not mine, not Michael's, not Alexandra's, yours. Your energy's up. Your ability to focus goes up. Wow, 1 to 101, 1 to 101. And you actually know what's important now because you know what's important in your future. 101. 101, 101, 101 is over 1 million units of awesome. Congratulations. That's exciting. I mean, generally feel that. That's exciting. You may be feeling some of that right now. I'm feeling it right now. Like I'm like, let's go. Where's the Spartan race for me to go hammer, right? That's how you feel after you walk on fire at a Tony Robbins event. I know that because I know what that feels like. But then the question is, how you doing on consistency? Because if you leave a call like this or a program like we've created in the past, and then you go back and a day or 2 or 3 later, the buzz wears off, and you're not consistent, that 101, 101, 1 million to the power of 0, you're back at 1. Literally, that's the math on it. And in some ways, you feel worse than you did when you didn't know all these things, because now you know you're the one that can't do what you say you will do. I've been there. I'm sure I know we've all been there. So the question is, what would happen if we can compassionately get your consistency up? Again, heroic self-compassion. All the, common humanity, all the kindness, self-talk, the mindfulness, the flashlight, and the hammer. We notice what's working, what's not, and we get back to work. What if we got our consistency to 101? Then you take that million, put it to the power of 101. ChatGPT, which I'm going to coach you on how to use. It's insane how I'm using it personally and professionally as a coach that will coach you on how to do. It's more sophisticated than my Google calculator I used to calculate that the first time. ChatGPT will give me the precise answer on 101 times 101 times 101 to the power of 101. It's insane. I break Google calculator, it just says infinity. Your power is infinite. When you, in your own idiosyncratic way, do that, you've activated your superpower. You've activated your best self. Let's go. The most important part of the program is getting you to show up to day 1, and then to show up after the days you fail. You will fail. You will not do this. You're going to be 101% committed, 101% intensity. Oh, shoot. Gap, oops. I'm going to fail. Alexander's going to fail. You're going to fail. That's not a question. It's not negotiable the same way that the fact that you're elite is not negotiable. I hate to break the news to you. You will not be the first perfect human being. You will not go through this program perfectly. But here's the deal. 101-day challenge, do this, this, and this, awesome, right? The days you don't, you know what's most important? You show up the next day. And the worse of a day you had the day before, the more committed you are to showing up that next day. Boom, streak's alive. Your consistency is there. And I've told the team, when I look forward of what I hope this program can do, and I think about addiction recovery, I think about individuals who really are struggling with all the things that we just talked about, this idea that you show up. And that act is heroic. That act is elite. And if you can do that over an extended period of time, you will absolutely fundamentally change your life. And by the way, objective 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, we go backwards, essentially. I wake you up, I bring you to Soul Force, I walk through the equation, and then we dominate the fundamentals. We talk about how to master yourself. We make today a masterpiece. Let's go put it all through the big 3. And what do you get? You forge anti-fragile confidence. The worse you feel, the more committed you are, and you're winning the ultimate game. So that's a very quick look at what we're up to. Heroic Elite, you activated so many details behind that, but obviously unbelievably excited about it. Michael, bring yourself back on. I don't see you on video. I want to hear Alexander reflect on it, and then we'll open it up to questions, etc. And I trust you can feel my fierce commitment to you and my fierce commitment to creating the absolute best training program we have ever created that truly helps you move from theory to practice to mastery on your next level. And I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited about the possibility of doing some great work together. We'll talk details, but wifey, and I'm not seeing Michael yet. I don't know if he's on. Oh, there we go. Cool. Let's have Michael reflect on what I reflected on, and then I want the same with Alexander, and then we'll take the questions. And as I said, I will be here until the very last question is asked. So Michael, off to you.
Yeah, I want to emphasize the last point. As you might say, like underline, asterisk, mark all up with a highlighter, fold over the page, big idea, the biggest idea of that recommitment, that recommitment, that recommitment, that recommitment. What do you do next after the decision that maybe didn't go the way you hoped, or the decision that was great, but that didn't create the outcome that you hope? Some of you may have seen, bless you if you've actually read all of our emails. I read every single one of the intake responses, and one of the common themes was, you know, I had things dialed and I've fallen off track. And this is the thing that I'm excited to help get me back to where I know that I can be. Or I'm really dialed and I'm excited to go to that next level. But that sense of recommitment, you're not going to get it perfectly. Perfect, that's perfect. What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? What do you do next? And to feel both our commitment to helping you really, 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 really get that, and our commitment to helping you really, 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 really do that. And to be able to show up in this community of folks who also get it, who are there to support you in choosing to be elite, like that next choice. Are you willing to see that potential within yourself, and then have the love, have the self-compassion to not beat yourself up about whatever happened last minute, yesterday, last week, last month, last year, but to make a choice going forward to start to create that future that you can for yourself, and that we need you to collectively for the world. So we just want to emphasize that. I'm excited to hear Alexandra's feedback as well. Gina, have a great day. And then we'll drop the link in the chat for anyone who's like already feeling like, yes, woo, let's go. We'll drop that in. So excited to see all of you in Elite. And yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. I just appreciate him. I don't really get to see, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but it's always so fun just to see him like do his thing. And the reason that all of us are here, because he's such a visionary, and all the ideas that he has, it's just really fun to be like, you know, just on the side here, just appreciating him.
Let's go there. My love language is words of appreciation. So I'm like, let's go. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I thought like, which a lot of people have, I have many thoughts to share, but I'll try to keep it concise. Sometimes he's very intelligent, right? You know, he's very smart. He has a very smart, he's very IQ, very, very high level. But I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not like Brian. And I think what's really exciting is to let him be him. I'm not like Brian, but I am equally elite and awesome. And just to really celebrate all of our gifts. So I'm really excited about all of us to get clear on our version of what that means for elite. Not Brian's elite, not Michael's elite, not my elite. Like, what is your elite? And really celebrating that. So we can celebrate what other people's gifts, but we don't, you know, if I compared myself, I would not do well. But if I can celebrate my gifts, then I'm crushing it. So just that's one thing. Two, I really am excited about, like, I don't know how many people we have, 466 people on this call. The idea of creating that community and connection and team. In the email that I sent, it's like, we are now Team Heroic. So a lot of us go at this alone, and we're doing it and we fail, and then we feel shame or guilt, or that's not me, and somebody else is probably doing it better than me, and blah, blah, blah. But the idea that we are all in this together, and we're doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for other people. Like, I'm doing it for Gita. I'm doing it for Aki. I'm doing it for Michael. I'm doing it for Jessica. It's not just about us doing it. It's like we're on a team. And if we all win, we win, right? So like supporting each other, that you don't feel alone on the journey. Because I know a lot of times I felt in my life that I was alone, and I was alone. It was a lonely journey. The hero's journey can be lonely, but I really want this to feel like that community team aspect, that you're not alone, and also the accountability. So we talked about consistency, but then the accountability of like, when are you actually doing these things? When did you go to bed? What are you actually eating? Like really being clear and measuring it, because a lot of us can be like, yeah, I'm eating healthy. But then you start tracking and you're like, well, maybe, or like, yeah, I do my digital sunset, but then you realize, no, actually, I just turned my computer off, 10 minutes before I went to bed. Whatever the things are, that idea of tracking along with the consistency, I'm also super excited about. My other thing, women, super excited about this as well, because I've shared it before in different contexts, different calls, but when we were at the Arizona local chapter launch, I talked to a few women, and then within like 10, 15 minutes, there was just this circle of women, probably 8 to 10 women. And I looked around and I was like, this is what women do. We're having a women's circle right here in this, like everybody's running around doing their thing, but we're like locking in and focus, and we had this little women's circle. So I just want to really create that for all of us, because again, Brian and Michael are like amazing masculine superpowers, which they also have a very healthy feminine as well. I also have a very strong masculine, but feminine too. But when you get women together, we just interact, we collaborate, we connect very differently. And I want to create that space for all of us to learn and grow and connect with each other, because there is something amazing, which you guys all know. When you get women together, magic happens. Men and women, I'm not excluding you, you know what I'm saying, but just there is something special about that I really want to create as well.
So yeah, so much riff on there. First, it's also to reflect back. Awesome to be here with Alexandra. We've done this a few times, spontaneously in a different context, but to feel her power, to feel her soul force, you all don't know how powerful she is. She's not been out trying to collect 1 million Instagram followers. And this is not what we're going to help you do. She's been more heroic than me over the last, 13 years since we've met, but the last 13 years raising our kids, doing things that will never get her any accolades whatsoever. But yet, and I would playfully say, she reads more than I do, period. I'm not exaggerating. Like I read when I'm like in philosopher's mode. Otherwise I'm like, whatever, she's like constantly studying and doing these things, but the wisdom, the discipline, the love, the courage that she brings, not only do I think that she is among, if not the best in the world, she's the only one who integrates it the way that she does. So everything that we discuss in our own idiosyncratic ways with Heroic, it's just unbelievable for me to imagine her asserting herself more in the architecture of this program than with you. Again, in energy, in work, in love, the integration of relationships, parenting, nutrition. She's a world-class nutritionist, a world-class athlete who I just do what she tells me to do. Perfect. But then finding the way that women who have different constraints than I do, as moms, potentially, not all of you, of course, are, or grandmothers, you just have a different life. I can't even imagine it. But how do you show up creatively and productively in that context where your work might be your family? Perfect. She's here for that. Then the women's circle thing I love. And, I'll tell you what, I actually, to step back, another part of the program is we're going to launch it basically January 1st. Is going to be day -11, -10, -9, -8, -7, -6, -5, -4, 3, 2, 1 to get you warmed up. Get the tests you're going to do, start thinking about your future. Then we have a 2-day immersion, January 11th, January 12th. Very small group of individuals in Austin to create the environment, the studio, the kind of energy, and then broadcast it to you, immersion, and then also, of course, record it, put it through post. Then the 101 days start on January 13th, Monday. For 101 days, with the exception of Wednesdays, when Michael will do his thing, Alexandra and I are showing up. She'll probably vary the time. I won't, unless I need to because of I can't move travel. 101 days, me at 101 to 143. I love you. Her starting with asterisks, 202 to 243. We love you. And I want you to feel our commitment to you. I want you to feel the fact that we literally are architecting our entire family's lives around you and helping you show up as your best self. Goosebumps. I don't want to be immodest, but I also don't want you to take that lightly. That's how committed we are to you. Now, those sessions will involve me riffing on. There'll be a micro lesson that goes out every day, not a +1, but a specific micro lesson for elite that will help you breadcrumb the wisdom. Very brief, 2-3 minutes. Think about this. Think about this. I'm going to riff on that every day, live. Then I'm going to take questions. The questions are going to be pre-formed. You're going to submit them in advance because we want to keep it tight. It's easy to get flooding and it becomes a 10-minute description of the challenge instead of a 60-second discrete. This is what I need help on. Alexander's idea is you can't get coaching unless you take a picture of your masterpiece days for the last 3 days and show us your food log, show us your digital sunset log, show us what you're doing. Yeah, we'll coach you then. What you measure gets improved. But anyway, we're there every day with an asterisk on Michael and whatever else may come up. I told Alexander I don't want her to coach men at all. Women only. Bring the women in, let's go. And she's like, no, the men get so much out of my work. I'm like, all right, cool.
So much. I said, I like to connect with the men as well.
And I'll say that the men come to me and say they get so much out of her work. So we're still figuring out the details, but it's probably going to be dudes. You're welcome. You get 2 days with Alexandra, Friday and Saturday. Go be a good husband and father. Everybody will be there, men and women. But Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, women only. Literally, after I do my coaching, dudes are kicked off. My dude wall, Caroline Adams Miller gives me a tough time, right? It's women connecting with Alexandra. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, dudes, come join if you want to become better men and better husbands and fathers, if that's part of the roles you play. And then Sundays will be a woman's circle is how you're thinking about it. I'd love to hear you briefly reflect on that.
Well, like we said, we'll do the coaches. I think Sunday what will be different is we will come together and we may not record it. There may be parts of it that we record and some that we don't record because I want it to be where you just feel safe to share anything, where we will come together and we'll share and we'll connect. There won't be lessons. There'll be a topic potentially, but as you know, if we just have a topic, that's going to lead down a whole thing of connection, just having women together. So it'll be meditating and connecting and more of, I would say, like a round table of connection. You can ask questions. You can ask other people questions. I mean, it's just more of like, just women connecting.
And I see that circle and I can see it in my head. It was literally a circle that formed that was just beautiful. So that's high level. Michael, anything else you want to help us kind of concretize or any questions you see that you think would be great to address first?
There's a ton of questions, so we can get right into them. But I will take a moment and do what Alexandra did in the celebration for both of you. And I know that I've said this in different kind of context, and I know that you already said it once, Brian. But like to actually feel the re-architecting of entire life, kids, like it's not just you guys either. It's Emerson, it's Eleanor, it's what's the drop-offs looks like, what do the pickups look like, where are we getting groceries? Like everything is architected around being here to support this community and to feel that commitment, not in a rah-rah go Johnsons kind of way, but in that sense of who are we doing this for, and that true commitment to 2051 and to feel who's the guy that's like, I'm Brian's favorite hero, right? Someone's social profile, their subtitles like, name Brian's favorite hero, right? Because Brian's always like, you are my favorite hero. And to actually feel that, each of us on this call, each of you on this call, to go back to you are elite, that's why you two are doing this. It's the wanting to reach through. You are elite, and we need you. We need you to show up at your best. And just the like commitment that you two have to that is I'm grateful for it. We did just ship out. Well, I'll pause there. We got a lot of questions. The team's done a great job of capturing them. Do you want to go?
Michael, what I want to do today is I want you to read them. Let's keep it tight. I want you to select which ones you think are going to be the most globally relevant. We'll just go through them and kind of dynamically hit it, line them up and see what we can do to it too. I said, I think in the PS, you got questions, I got answers. So let's go.
And just again, great work, team, capturing all of these. First and foremost, some folks wanted the program to start yesterday. When does the program actually start?
Perfect. I'm going to go back to seeing everybody. Well, the program started yesterday for you. If you signed up, get going. Let's go. We're gonna formally kick it off on January 1st. So on January 1st, we'll start the countdown. -11, -10, -9, -8, -7, -6, etc. Getting you ready for the 2-day intensive immersion experience. And we'll systematically kind of guide you through, hey, start thinking about these things, start thinking about those things. So that's when the program will start. Now, Asterix will formally walk you through everything as we go.
And then the 101 days, Jan 13th.
Of course. And then the 101 days going. But just to add a moment more, we're going to send things like if you do want to do the biometrics, we have a letter that you can give to your doctor that we'll be sending out in the next 48 hours, 51 hours called. So literally, dear doctor, I am participating in this heroic elite program. The intention is to help me become the most energized, productive, connected version of myself. As part of that, I will be optimizing my nutrition, movement, and sleep. And as part of that, I may experience shifts in my underlying metabolic profile. As part of that, I want your counsel to make sure I'm doing it right. Asterix, if you are on medications, you cannot do this without your physician knowing you're doing this. You need to pace that. We're going to have a advisory letter that we've had really powerful physician coaches in our community go through, help us optimize and bless. That's insanely important to me. Whether you are on insulin, cholesterol, psychiatric medications, you must be in connection with your prescribing doctor as you go through this. And ideally, we get their support with a blood panel. Because not only do I want to prove what we've already proven so many times, I don't doubt it, the flourishing and the big three metrics, I want to prove biometrics. I want to be able to Goosebumps prove that you started here, you went there, day 1 to day 101, Goosebumps. And my confidence in that is absolute. Anyway, we'll send that out before January 1st, so you can get ahead on that. And then we have a floor of the blood panel, what that would look like. Very basic stuff. Then we have an elite. Some of you will go in network to insurance if you have it. Some of you will internationally, you have different challenges. Go conquer them, figure it out. Ask ChatGPT, hey, how do I get this done efficiently? We're partnering with a couple of different blood lab draw companies that we really respect to give you a discount on that. And then to have the panel already defined for you. So you don't need to say this and this. This is what Alexander and I do. I haven't seen a doctor in a decade. That's not true. 5-6 years. We had one in Ojai, but I have not been to a doctor's office since we moved to Austin in at least 5 years. And the only reason I went to the other doctor's office was for IV draws, right? But anyway, we go to a blood lab. We don't go to our doctor to get blood work. But if money's an issue, then that's where you're going to want to do it. And you may not be able to do it to your next annual physical. So then you need to decide if you want to do it or not. But anyway, we'll empower you with those details sooner rather than later. I interrupted where you were going to go. So take us where you're going to go if you remember what you're going to say.
I do remember. I also just wanted to note on the blood work. I always do all of our blood and I do it. And the last time I went to my women's appointment, my doctor was like, who ordered all of these labs? I'm like, I did. And she's like, wow, that's a lot. We're going to have a whole nother session for that. So there is an expansive blood
She's
panel.
the Michael Racing Spartan. So there will be a foundation, just get these few measures, right? And then there will be an elite. Then there'll be she is crazy. If you haven't noticed, she makes me look like I'm standing still at times. And I will give her a hard time. The same way you look at me and you're like, dude, Brian's crazy. Who does that? Right? Which I know you all have done at least 101 times. I do that to her. I'm like, all right, I'll indulge you on that. That's pretty next level margin, but let's go. So anyway.
The joke is the things I put up with you, is what you say to me. I was like, the things I put up with you.
Me, geez,
okay. I also just wanted to say, when do you start? The idea of elite, right? So you are, like they said, Brian said, you start now, but there is also that tendency that we're like, oh, it doesn't start till January 13th. So I got some time. But an invitation is start crafting. What is that elite version? Yes, there's going to be targets and we're going to lay that out and share those with you. But right now, start stepping into that elite. Start changing your diet. Start experimenting with things that you want to do, like that next version. Don't wait until that start date, because we're always like, oh, I'll start that diet next month after I do that and that and that. So I just want to.
I love that voice. And we'll give you practical prescriptive things to think about.
I'm just saying for now.
I understand. But the moment you sign up, that's a commitment. And remember George Leonard's statement. George Leonard, Aikido master. And by the way, he didn't even get into Aikido until he was in his 40s. and he became one of the most renowned Aikido masters ever. Started in his 40s, wasn't elite in that regard. Boom, all in, let's go, right? He, in the philosopher's note called Mastery Team, please share the link to this in the chat right now. He said something happens the moment that you put your name on a board. For him, it was getting the next level in his, black belt progression, then the next degree in black belt. But something happens when you put your name on a board. That level of accountability to yourself and to that declaration that you're making. We will have a contract that you're going to make with yourself as part of this fun, process setting it up. I so-and-so declare this is my commitment to myself. But there's something powerful about that. So frankly, it's already started. You being here, and we may have brought you to a boil, as who was it? Walt Whitman said about Ralph Waldo Emerson. Walt Whitman once said, they were contemporaries, and Whitman really admired Emerson, and the feeling was mutual. Whitman said that I was simmering, and Emerson brought me to a boil. So you may or may not be boiling, but you wouldn't be here this deep into a chat unless you were at least simmering. So we've already won. And by the way, we've already won in so many ways with the emails we're getting, the social posts that I shared the other day. Someone just looking at our sleep protocol. Brian, you were here. I believe it was Brian Awad, if I'm recalling correctly. And if I'm not, my apologies. Posted that just looking at the sleep protocol V1, which is very V1, he's already seeing sleep scores going up, still working on his average. So it's already begun. We're going to continue to share a ton of stuff just to let you know what we're doing. And today's the day. Today's always the day. You've heard me say that and sign off every day. Day one, the fun's begun. Let's get to work. What else we got, Michael?
Yeah, I'll emphasize too. I've been so excited about this program. Brian and I posted 2 weeks. Time flies when you're having fun. But for me, it's like just
chipping away at it for months. I mean, to be clear, I sent out a survey months ago on Heroic Elite. And thank you all who replied to that. It was incredible. We had an incredible number of people respond months ago. But then, yeah, we realized that this is it. New year, new you. This is a perfect time to launch something like this. Let's go all in. And then it's been a wonderful 2 years packed into 2 weeks. Let's go.
Yeah, but just that, for me, that excitement, like I was personally excited for this thing because I know what are those things that I'm not hitting yet that I know that I could, whether that's the phone free time with the girls or the digital sunsets or whatever it is. So just the idea of like, oh, what are those things that I already know that I could be doing that I'm not yet doing? Let's go. And just have that little bit of just enthusiasm and excitement, encouragement, invitation to flip that switch. So the program starts the moment you make that commitment. I want to hit a couple time related questions. So we've got a bunch of different ones, including if I miss a daily coaching session because I've got work, whatever, will that be okay? I'll be on vacation for 2 weeks. I'll be doing a couple trips during January and February. Will I be getting the value out of this program if I'm not able to consume everything? What's the overall time commitment on a daily and weekly basis? Just talk a little bit about that nexus of questions.
Brilliant. So again, one of the challenges that we always have is finding the balance of intensity and overwhelm, right? To state the obvious, I'm very, very aware of my fire hydrant flooding energy. This must be focused on practice and it must be doable. This is unequivocal. And now we're going to give you the frame. The immersion's no joke. I mean, I'm excited about that just to get you fired up, to get you going. Then we're going to drip it micro, but that's 2 minutes a day. Literally, it's 2 minutes a day of the micro lessons. The coaching with Alexander and I is completely to your discretion, whether you want to be there live. Of course, it will be recorded. And we're also going to do a better job of cutting it up. So we're going to do a better job of editing it right in post. And I frankly don't like all the TikTok quick videos. I think it's obnoxious. But we got to do a better job of giving you more wisdom in less time, which is why we're going to constrain the question asking part of it. And we'll cut up the best coaching from that. I also want to emphasize the fact that you all who join Elite will get, at least at launch, exclusive access to my clone, heroicbride.ai. So Michael and the team have inputted 16 million words of my instruction and coaching and content into an app that allows you to ask me anything 24/7 And it's insane. I mean, the answers are in my voice with my style and solid. I mean, legit solid. Of course, it will continue to get better, but I do it and I'm like, kids are listening, like, it sounds exactly like you. Oh, and by the way, in almost any language, instantly. So that's going to be part of Heroic Elite, which will also help you get private coaching from me if you just don't want to ask me in public, which is going to be the vast majority of you. And thank you in advance for those who have the courage to ask questions. But anyway, it will be recorded. It'll be produced really, really well, and it will be supplemented by the virtual Bry. But then the other facet to that question is, hey, I got 2 weeks. I know I'm going to be off. I've got this, I've got that. So do I. Michael dropped a series of F-bombs, and we're actually going to produce this because it's so funny. He literally read a note from someone who's like, hey, I have an 8 to 5. How am I supposed to do this? And Michael said to the whole team, it was all of us together, he's like, put your earmuffs on, right? And then we're going to post-produce this with a big beep. Basically, who do you think we are? You think I'm sitting here and I all I do all day is just put myself in my bubble wrap. I live in Bali, Goosebumps. I get 3 massages a day, and all I'm doing is thinking about how I'm going to be awesome today, and I'm focused exclusively on my self-development. Michael's like, who do you think we are? I worked 15 hours yesterday, and I got an 89 sleep score. Got 2 hours of deep work in the middle of the night because I'm buzzing after 8 hours of conversations like this with our team and with Michael. But this is for you, and you're elite. Elite people work within the constraints of their reality, and they do what needs to get done. Now, having said that, you're going to have a foundational floor and an elite target. I don't meditate for an hour every day. I don't meditate for 10 minutes every day. There are days where it's a breath or it's a minute. Perfect. I got more important things to do than to sit here levitating for 30 minutes or even 10 minutes. Perfect. But I won. Hit my meditation target, didn't break the streak. It's okay to suck. It's not okay to skip. BJ Fogg 101, Atomic Habits 101. These are huge parts of what we're rolling out now. The other thing that Michael alluded to are the 3 protocols. So when I was in Athens, and it's just such an extraordinary experience, and bless everybody who was there. It was truly one of those, wow, to be there with our community was amazing. But my protocol was blown up, right? So I fly out, I get like 3 hours of sleep on the way out, right? As you'd expect, red eye from Austin to New York to London to Athens. Perfect. And then this is blown up, that's blown up, this is blown up. And it just dawned on me for the first time that and I've shared this, but I'll get to the punchline. We're going to teach you 3 protocols. So the 3 protocols are bubble wrap, out in the wild, and paying the price. Bubble wrap is when you wave your wand and you have a masterpiece day. It is when I lived in Bali with Alexandra. We lived there for a year. Although we ended our engagement, she moved back home for a few months, then came back. We got divorced before we got married, which worked out well. And by the way, I've shared this to the team. We had a really romantic engagement, proposal, if you will, right? I'll spare the details, but it was awesome. Then we were together, we struggled, we ended our relationship, we got back together. And then the second time that we got engaged, we did so while doing the dishes. And it was so perfect. It was so falling in love. Isn't it romantic? I just walked on fire in love. It's just wonderful. To the mundane, the unsexy, the unglamorous. Well, let's do it. I love you. And let's go. Yeah, we should make this happen. That's how I want you to approach this. I don't want you to approach this flying high on your Vipassana high or your Tony Robbins fire high. This is a grounded commitment to your best self forever, with all the challenges, without all the trumpets of fanfare, right? That 2 days later you tiptoe out the back door, et cetera. Anyway, 3 protocols. Bubble wrap, Bali. We literally got a massage every single day for 180 days in a row. If we missed a day, we got 2 the following day to make up for it. I meditated for 2 hours a day. We both did. It was insane. It was a joke. Like, I had sold a business. I went there. We did nothing but that. That's bubble wrap. Now, in my current life, I can actually create a pretty good bubble wrap because Michael runs our business. Alexander runs our family. So I literally can create an equivalent where, check me out. I was in bed for 10 hours. I meditated for 2 hours. I worked out for an hour. I did 7 hours of deep work. Boom. How you doing? That's bubble wrap. Now,
I don't have bubble wrap.
she doesn't even have bubble wrap. It doesn't, no. So I took the kids to a special change of command ceremony for a friend of mine who commanded an aircraft carrier in San Diego. I took the kids 3 days, her first 3 days in 12 years. She had never been away from the kids for longer than a night.
No, I did a
took them.
meditation retreat. I did a
I'm
meditation
sorry,
for 5 days.
5 days, but your mom was here. But
Yeah.
but to be at home by herself 3 days. So her
Oh,
bubble
never been
wrap,
home.
her
No.
bubble wrap doesn't even exist these days. And mine rarely exists in that context. Yours almost never exists. So be honest about that. You just don't have that freedom anymore. Perfect.
And if you do, rock it,
Second-
own it, do it.
Second protocol, but that we've overplayed, the bubble wrap. Perfection. We're getting away from perfection here. We're getting into reality. The second protocol is I'm out in the wild. This is the feeling I had in Athens, or when I'm flying from one keynote to another on a near red eye to give another keynote the next morning, right? Recently, I did one in the afternoon and one in the morning. Well, I'm out in the wild. And in fact, at that time, I'm paying the price, which is the third protocol. So the out in the wild is your 80% of the time protocol. It's what you're doing within the constraints of your energy, work, and love. It isn't perfect. In fact, it's very messy. You're out in the wild, right? So we're going to help you create a protocol that is out in the wild. That'll be your primary protocol you execute with us. And then there's you're paying the price. Michael referenced it. The amount of energy this dude focuses on what's important in our business, Goosebumps, is heroic. He makes me look like I'm standing still. I cannot physically do what he does. He can get by on 3 hours of sleep. He can, he worked one night, right? And he did something. The team was going to do one thing. He's like, we got to do it at this level. He does it. He's like, yeah, I stayed up until whatever obnoxious time. And he was in bed for 5 hours, got 4 hours and 59 minutes of sleep. I can't do that. I'm exaggerating slightly, but I'm like, well, dude, what did you do right before you went to bed? He's like, well, I shut my computer down. And then you just, oh, cool, he's done. I can't do that. But he's got to pay the price. I've got to pay the price. She's got to pay the price, which you'll never hear about, right? And she's not blogging, hey, I did this and that. Anyway, bubble wrap, out in the wild, pay the price. All of us are spending most of our time out in the wild. Sometimes we'll redline to paying the price, but we're going to architect the system or the program such that you win no matter where you are. So you give us, a 10 minutes before you go to bed, digital sunset. You give us a 1 minute meditation. You give us, you followed one meal on your nutrition protocol. Then you went off the rails and you celebrated and it was awesome. But you did one, you kept the consciousness there and you mindfully chose to do it. You did 1 minute of movement. You can't even get out of bed. Perfect. Get out of bed, put on your shoes and walk up and down the hall for a minute. Congratulations. You hit your foundation. That's like you to do what you say you will do. It's BJ Fogg 101, right? We want you to spend 30 to 60 minutes with your kids or loved ones without your phone-free time. It's one of the 10 targets we're going to have you hit. Can't do that? Do it for a minute. Perfect. You won. You set the intention and you hit it. So there will be foundation and elite targets for everything we asked you to do that will allow you to operate within the constraints of your reality with consistency such that you can exponentialize your power and rebuild any trust that might have been lost in the months and years ahead and dominate all the things we've been talking about, flourishing, big three, biometrics, because you're no longer the person who gives up when life hits you hard or you take the vacation or whatever. There's a way to sustain this. The offline journal will not be published on January 13th, but we will have that published by, and I'll make this declaration now, the end of this program. It will begin as a digital file you will print out and be able to use. By the end of our program, you will be able to purchase, Michael, I'm making the declaration, the journal that we create, such that when you're on vacation, you don't turn on your phone. Perfect. Don't use the app. Don't turn on your phone. More power to you. Here's your journal. There's a 5-minute journal, gratitude and whatnot. Ours will be, whatever it is, 7-minute, 11-minute journal, heroic journal. Let's go. The CEO with whom we partnered for our publishing company, love him. Josh, hope you almost certainly going to listen to this. He and his wife and his team are unbelievable doing the program. He went through our coach program, and as he said, completely transformed his life. He is a passionate, the CEO of our publishing company partner is a passionate, heroic student, practitioner, advocate who is working with us to craft a world-class, next level. Michael, flash up our elite brand again. Just throw that icon up and imagine every single thing we do. The journal, yeah, well, here you go, right? We got Alexander black on black, just that fun mode. But the journal will be aesthetically beautiful, tactilely sensually appealing, or you want to use it. It's just got that. Our joke is our brand has to be, you want to lick it. Like, can we make the Arte cover so beautiful that you just want to lick it? Like the Apple, Tesla standard of excellence. Anyway, the journal will help with that when you're offline on vacation. That's a long answer to a great question. I hope I hit each of the facets of that.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize, because there's another one that came up that was like, oh, I've got a new kid on the way. I'm focused on my job and my family, and I don't know if I'm going to have time for this. And in some ways, it's like the same like earmuffs. When are you going to have time? And when would be more important for you to actually show up at your best within the constraints of those reality? We're not saying, hey, this is 3 hours of content, have fun, going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into theory. This is how are you actually showing up for your wife who's pregnant? What does that look like? What are you doing for her on a daily basis that helps you support that kid that's on the way? How are you showing up in your work? Are you focused on what's most important in your work? How are you showing up energetically to have the energy to focus on that work and on that love? So I love everybody, and I'm often much less chill. And if you have a story, if you don't have time for this, or there's some sort of constraints on vacation, what would it look like to show up vacation heroically? Like, it's not going to be different. It's going to be different from what your at-home protocol looks like. And you're going to be deliberately choosing to focus on having the meal or having the love time or whatever it is that you want out of that vacation. But don't limp into it. What if you showed up and like, this is the best vacation I've ever had because I was deliberate and intentional? How would it look like to be 100% fully present with these people and to hit my energetic floor and to hit my meditation floor? So I love all of you, and Perfect will help you figure this out, but like, wake up. It is time. Like there, it is not ever going to get easier. You are not ever going to have more time to this. How do you show up within the constraints that you do have? And actually, what does the best version of me look like? And any flavor of, oh, all this other stuff, like that's just an excuse for you to show up less than what you're capable of doing. So
I was just going to add something to it, and I want to add real quick. That isn't your elite voice. That's not the elite version of you, your daimon talking. And those are synonyms, by the way. The elite, most heroic version of you is your daimon. There is a guiding spirit that brought all of you here today that has kept you on this call way past when we said we would go. That's the version of you we want running the show. That's the version of you we need to activate and connect you to via the energy focused on what's important now consistently. That is you at your heroic, most elite best. So ask yourself the question, step outside of the inner dialogue, which we will train you on how to do focus-wise. Listen to yourself, see what you're saying, and then talk to yourself, as Darren Donnelly says. Speak from the elite version of you, rub up against the constraints of reality. Don't be a manic, silly, ungrounded, didn't embrace reality version of you. That is not the elite. The elite version of you is wise. They're not foolish. They're disciplined. They're not lazy, right? But we got to have that virtuous mean where you might be too lazy and too unambitious, or you might be too manicky. I want to find the virtuous version of you that embraces the hard work required to show up elite. But notice when the demon, the diminutive of daimon, is taken over the airways, it's the mediocre version of you versus elite. I refuse to accept that you are mediocre. Refuse to. It's non-negotiable. You may have acted like that in the past, but you are not. In potentiality, at the very least, all of us are elite, as I've said a million times. With that, excited to hear your take on all of the things, constraints, protocols, kids, etc.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, just the mention of being honest with ourselves, right? Because we're like, oh, I don't have time. And we all have said that on this call, I'm sure. Oh, I don't have time. I have kids, or I have this, or I have that. But I also, just to challenge all of us, we waste time. I don't know about you, but it's like, did you need to check your email? Did you need to get on the internet? Did you need to be on Instagram? Did you need to do like, this is where the focusing on what's important now, we can all like really trim it down. And I think that's just the question for ourselves of like, how much do you want it? Like, how much do you actually want to step into that next version? Because you can make excuses. We all can, and we all have, and we all do, right? But I'm telling you what, I put this elite shirt on today. It's the first time I wore it, and I look in the mirror and I was like, well, jeez, that's a little bold. That's a little bold. Okay. You stand up a little taller and you're like, okay, I'm going to step into this. Like, it's bold intentionally, so that we can all stand up and be like, okay, I need to stop lying to myself. Like I'm trying, or I'm good enough, or it's blah, blah, blah. All of those whiny voices. And like, you have time to meditate 1 to 10 minutes. You have time to move for 10 minutes. Like, to pretend that we don't, I think we're lying to ourselves.
So I love this woman and I love this. So on our team call, when I announced what we're doing, right? And even someone said, I have ADHD, longer chat. Okay. You know,
I have
like,
tendencies as well.
so does she. And we want to, Ellen Langer, the world's leading scholar, the first woman in a tenured position in Harvard psychology department. Be very, very, very careful of the labels you put on yourself. Very careful. It shapes your life in unheroic, horrific ways. May or may not be true that you have tendencies of attention deficit, as we all do, spectrum-wise, but we want to make very, very clear what labels we're throwing around. Whole nother chat. Not disrespectful, but just want to put it there. So when we're sharing the plan for this, when I was with the team, the women were over the top excited that Alexandria was going to be doing it, right? And it was awesome. And so was I. I got emotional sharing how excited I was, et cetera. And then I said, be careful what you wish for. She's more intense than I am. I mean, she's got her own feist and her own hammer here, but listen to her. The way I would say what she says is, you have time, Alexandra just said, let me follow you around. Let me follow you around for a day. And let me check out where you're spending your time. And then 2 things to that. And my point being, you have time. And I'm not saying you need to meditate for now. You got a minute. Did you need to do that? Pull that back. Elite you still does that. I mean, I still do things that I wanted to do mindfully of. This is a recovery practice. I will go do this because it nourishes me, right? But you want to know and you want to pay attention. The other thing, Michael, time tracker. Dust off what we've used in the past, bring it to an elite level, share it by the end of the week. So we
It's
can
in the journal. Yeah, I'll get a version of it.
of course, but like you know what I'm saying, for the field,
Yep.
a worksheet, and then it will be part of the journal is going to be that. But what I want is a granular for a day or 2 or 3. This is Peter Drucker 101. So Peter Drucker, before you actually get to time management, you need to know where you're currently spending your time. Eknath Easwaran, the great Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher, says the same thing. You should not start architecting your ideal day. You should start by inventorying what you currently do. And then Eknath Easwaran, who literally taught the first meditation class in the United States at Berkeley forever ago. Grew up in India, came to the States on a Fulbright fellowship, I think. I featured him, I believe, more than anyone else. He's one of my all-time favorite teachers. Ron, can you relax the arm waves or take yourself off video there? I love you and you're awesome. And I appreciate the movement, but it's also making me want to do the same. He says you take an inventory of what you're currently doing, and then you bring a red pencil to the things that need to go away. The fastest way to change your life, I've said countless times, is to stop doing the things that are destroying your life. So we've got to be honest about that. Superman's got all the power in the world. But when kryptonite is in front of him, he loses all of it. There's nothing Superman can do in the face of kryptonite to get his strength back until he has to get rid of the kryptonite first. So we're going to work on that. You can think about that right now. What's the one thing you know the elite version of you doesn't do? One thing, just one. Just one. What is it? Let's work on that. Let's chip away. Let's get that out. And the other thing with Superman that I've said a number of times, Todd Herman inspired. Who's who? Who's the real individual? Superman, the one with all the powers, or Clark Kent? You think it's Clark Kent, but Clark Kent is the imposter. Clark Kent is the fumbling, bumbling, non-elite, mediocre version that kind of fits into society. Who's the real you? And again, in a world with such low standards, it's very difficult to have conversations like this, which is why our community is a gift to many of you, because you don't have the space to be this. But who's the real you? Are you playing this really weird role of your version of Clark Kent, fumbling around, goosebumps, you know, being less than you can be because you don't want to make yourself or others feel uncomfortable? It's just how you've gotten used to living. That's not the real you. All great spiritual teachers across all cultures, across all time have said the exact same thing. It's the Golden Buddha story. The Golden Buddha is right there. It's how Finding Joe is kicked off. Alan Cohen tells the beautiful story in Finding Joe. Let's make that part of what they go out and do, by the way, Michael. Watch Finding Joe again, or for the first time if you haven't, over the next 11 days. Pat Solomon is one of the dear friends of mine I invited to Austin to be there for the studio. Alexander and I didn't have a wedding, really. We got married by two people we admired, and that was it. It was the couple married us in their backyard, done. No reception, nothing. I turned 50, you know.
And took him to a detox retreat.
Then she takes me to a detox retreat where people go who are dying for 3 weeks. Whole nother conversation.
So,
Whole nother next level. Crazy conversation. Love you. Train of thought. So we didn't have a reception. Our families were very disappointed. We never celebrated our wedding, right? With them. We celebrated, but we're private and we just don't do that. My 50th birthday in May of this year, no party. It was me, Alexander, the kids, doing what we do. As I started inviting some of my dearest friends to this event, it felt like the party we've never given ourselves. And this celebration of our commitment to what we're doing, which is like part of that destined thing, that is something here, you know, that's so special. But bring us back, Michael, and take us to the next thing that we want to talk about here. I was saying that, you know, all the things about who's the real you and all the other things, but let's get back to work and chip away as I approach the need to take a sip of water.
Yeah, we got some more questions. We can get back to the questions. But that segue was all in the context of time and having the time and how much time to be available. If I miss the calls, they're going to be recorded. You have the option of joining the live calls, working with Bride, heroicbride.ai. There's a question about elite versus coach, and folks who are either in coach and considering elite or newer and want to know which one's the right one for them.
Yeah, perfect. So that's an idiosyncratically answered question that I can't answer for you. You need to make the decision as to what makes the most sense for you. I will tell you, as I told the team when they asked a similar question, I had a chat with one of our VIPs in Athens. They got one-on-one coaching with me. So I was chatting with him literally just last week or the week before. And he asked the same question. He's like, I don't know, 100 and something days into coach, and kind of, as many who go through coach, not quite keeping up with what's going on. He's like, what should I do? Should I finish coach? Because he's committed to finishing it. And he was thinking about making that his #1 target for 2025, or should he do elite? And I told him, do elite. Because the #1 thing, and it doesn't mean don't do coach, but the #1 thing with coach is what? You must be a radiant exemplar. The #1 thing we need you to do is be the most elite version of you, so you can lead, so you can coach effectively, whether you want to have a coaching practice or not. So my advice to him, which was one-on-one, I know him, idiosyncratic, was go all in on elite. Now, the general reason why I would encourage you to consider that is, this is a moment. This is special. This will never be recreated. Like this energy right now, we will have cohorts for elite the same way we do for coach. There are a lot of people here who went through coach class 1. That has never been repeated. Coach class 2 was close because we did it again somewhat live. And this will be, you'll experience the creative process with us. I promise you there will be dust. I promise you we're going to learn some stuff as we go. But there's an aliveness to it that I think is, again, at the risk of being hyperbolic yet again, sacred. There's something about what we're creating together right now that's special. It's different. So I would encourage you, if you have been thinking about both, to prioritize this and to see this as a in-between, which is why we're excited about it. from a public benefit corporation wise and a healthy red blood cells for our movement wise, which is very important for us. We've missed the in-between. There was premium app, good luck with that, which we're getting better at, but good luck with that. Lots of content, but hard to apply. And then there's coach, which is overwhelming for most, but amazing for people who truly want to go next level. And what Michael has done in coach, Goosebumps, to take coach from only being about you being your best with our most exhaustive theory to practice to mastery over 300 days to, here's how you coach. Coaching excellence is facet number 2 of our coach certification program. Number 1 is you got to be a radiant exemplar. You are your most valuable asset. If you walk into a room and your soul force isn't idiosyncratically palpable, people have to feel you. They have to believe that you have something that they want, that they're willing to pay for, to be very blunt. So that's why we focus on you must be the living, walking billboard of your movement and of your coaching practice. John Mackey's on my board underneath a couple other heroes right now. When I got mentorship from him, who started Whole Foods, his number 1 thing is, Brian, you must be the brand. You have to be heroic embodied. He was for Whole Foods. He's a living poster child. You must be, as a coach, the walking billboard of your coaching effectiveness. That's number 1. We've been very good at that forever, but elite is going to be next level on that from a practical perspective, and it's going to be shorter. Number 2 for coach that Michael has crushed is coaching excellence. So now we teach you how to coach people using the heroic protocol. We did not have that in 2023. We stood that up. We trained an internal group of dozens of heroic performance coaches who coached, Marty was here, his team through our 7 objectives. That's called coaching excellence. We now give you a prescribed way to coach people using our protocol. Then the 3rd facet of coach is, for those who want to get paid, coaching prosperity. Here's how you create a business. It is insanely hard to create a coaching business. Most people have no clue as to how hard it is. They're not willing to pay the price and they give up. Well, you need to know that it's hard. You need to pay the price, but you also need to be taught how to build a business. First, you better be the change. You better be investing in you, your most important asset. Second, you got to master your craft of coaching. And third, here's how you get clients. Here's how you price it out. Here's what you do. Michael has gone next level on that in coach. I'm so proud of that. And that's coach. I've never been more proud of coach. But it's 300 days and it's for people that want that certification to get paid. Elite is what we just talked about. It is absolutely, ruthlessly, relentlessly intense, practical, and results oriented. All the things we talked about. You activated, flourishing, big 3, the most energized, productive, connected version of yourself. What does that look like? What can we do in 101 days? The waist to height, ChatGPT and I have spent so much time talking together. You can take inches off of your waist in 101 days, healthfully. Well, you literally, I haven't said this out loud, and I'm glad I am now, hour and a half in. My goal is a decade that I want to add to your lifespan and your health span, all the asterisks, a decade to your lifespan, which means how long you live, and to your health span, which means how well you live over that period of time. Peter Attia makes the distinction. Who cares if you live another decade? If you're in and out of surgery after surgery after surgery, you can't get out of bed and you're miserable. We've been pretty good. I mean, the life expectancy of kids born today is less than what it was the generation before. That's horrific. That should terrify you. But what should terrify you more is the last 10 years of that shorter life sucks. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for her. I don't want that for you. Wake up. And then here's what you do scientifically to optimize your flourishing, your big 3, and your biometrics. Your waist to height is the #1 predictor of your morbidity. If it is 0.6, your risk of morbidity is like, the influence of that on your morbidity is like 95%. And I don't curse, but earmuffs, you're not in a good position in that regard. Perfect. We can get to work on that. You are elite. You've made some less than elite decisions for a little bit longer than you'd like to admit. That's unfortunate, as Seth Godin says, but it's unforgivable to wait any longer. And very importantly, elite is also different because we prescribe things to do. I have never done that before. Goosebumps, I have been very deferential. I'm the guy who has the humility to go read 700 books, tears in my eyes, dance around in front of a chalkboard and tell you all the things that guy thought, right? Or gal. Then I did the coach program where I'm proud of how I systematically architected it and integrated ancient wisdom and modern science into a pretty coherent framework that the most skeptical among us look at and go, that makes sense. I'm not into this self-help stuff, but that makes sense. And we've proven it scientifically because it's all scientifically, nearly all already established. This time around, we're prescribing. And we're going to prescribe with flexibility. Even my nutrition now, I can't believe that I'm carnivore basically. I eat meat and I eat an apple a day. It's insane to me that that is actually even a thing people do. When she told me about that, I said, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. 5 years ago, the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I get paid to experiment. I said the same thing to her, by the way, when I went from vegan to paleo. We're going to stay out of the nutritional food wars, but I said the same thing to her when she said, I want to go from vegan to paleo. We've been vegan for 10 years, but we had some health challenges and enough health challenges during her pregnancy with Emerson to merit doing something different. We were willing to experiment. She told me that. I'm like, catastrophically, no. My identity is I'm this person. I can't do that. I'm like, that's the stupidest idea ever. Like, I'm going to go there for a moment because the experimentation mindset is important. We will not be prescriptive of you need to do what I do. I still think it's crazy. Whether you're animal-based or plant-based, I don't care. Just like I don't care what religion you follow. What I want you to do is do whatever it is you say you will do at the highest possible level. Plant-based, animal-based, a blend, perfect. Let's get you clear on what your nutrition protocol is, and I'm going to challenge you to do it. At least one meal a day for 101 days, etc. Anyway, when we made our shift, I had a lot of health issues when I was vegan. We were vegan for a decade, and I am a very disciplined human being. I followed it to the T. Yet I never knew which day I might have a migraine. Looked fine, but I didn't know what day might I wake up and by 3 p.m. have a migraine. Never had them in the morning, but 3 p.m. I could get shut down. If I traveled or I pushed myself or I got a bad night of sleep, I never knew. And that sucked because I might have to do something, obviously, etc. I had weird bumps on my arm. I looked more pregnant than she did. She was 7 months pregnant. I looked as pregnant, literally. I'm skinny, but I had this weird inflamed gut. I did her paleo thing, skin resolved, haven't had a migraine since, and my gut went away. Now for me, and I'm not saying this is you, but for me, grains didn't work. Just didn't work. Eliminating them changed my life completely. Completely. So I'm going to encourage you to consider, as you architect your nutrition protocol, what's right for you. Plant-based, I'm going to say it out loud. That's really hard to do right. We have a lot of friends who are functional medicine doctors. Their sickest patients are vegan and 100% plant-based. Sensitive conversation. I'm not going to go there and tell you what to do, but eyes wide open. If it's working for you and you're the most energized version of you, perfect. Keep on crushing it. If it's not working for you, I encourage you to be open to the possibility that you might want to experiment. Perhaps you do a little blend, or perhaps you even go crazy and you follow Georgia Eads' advice, who is my #1 favorite nutritional psychiatrist right now. The world's leading nutritional psychiatrist. That phrase is beautiful. Nutritional psychiatry. I've said forever, physiology drives psychology. The world is finally catching up to that, right? Whole longer chunk conversation. Her book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. Team, please link to that again, is my #1 personally. I'm not saying it needs to be yours. My #1 nutritional book right now. She frames it up and says, get your brain quiet. There are things you're doing that are kryptonites that are inflaming your brain. And again, we'll go into some more details on this, but she does it beautifully. So find your own path, whether it's quiet plant-based, it's quiet paleo, it's quiet keto, it's quiet carnivore, which is what I have found to be insanely great for me. Where are you on that? Find it, go crush it. I went off on that, which I'm happy I did, but bring us back, Michael.
I've not gone 101 days.
But I've never gone, thank you. I've never gone, I do it my own idiosyncratic way. I have tried to do that 101%, nothing but I do a little bit better with an apple, which is 30 grams of carbs. Very little, but it gives me a little bit of a hit. And I'm constantly experimenting.
But you've never gone 101 days with just that either. With just meat. You have not done that.
Yeah. But details on mine. But the principal point here is that I have my idiosyncratic path. Alexandra has hers. She doesn't do this. We don't do this for our kids, yet we do a lot of what we're talking about. the point here was I've never been prescriptive. So I will not be prescriptive and say, you need to do this, but I will be prescriptive to the extent that we're going to challenge you to get clarity within a broad realm of recommendations. For nutrition, for example, it's don't drink your sugar. That is a heroic elite rule. Just don't do that. That makes no sense. You're disrupting your insulin. Ultra processed foods, reduce or eliminate them. And you get into some gray areas of whether grains work for you or not. And then we will be prescriptive as well. And Michael, we haven't talked about the 10 specific habits, which is out of the scope of this, I think, but we will share that. And maybe we'll do a follow-on kind of part 2, Michael, in which we go into some more depth or not. But anyway, we'll find a balance of prescriptiveness. To bring it back to Michael's question, what makes elite different than coach? It's a very long-winded, meandering answer, which I covered a ton. The super practicality, the prescriptive nature, and the results-oriented focus of this over a more discrete period of time, and all the other things I said, are what makes it different. And why I would recommend you consider doing elite as your next step, all in optimization as part of your coach journey, if that's your thing, or as potentially part of your coach journey when and if that becomes your thing as well.
Yeah. How about the quote unquote rules? There's an idea of if I miss a target, I have to start over. The process of, okay, we've got these targets that are prescribed in terms of consider this, and then idiosyncratic in terms of here's the bucket to play in, have something for this target, but then we're actually going through the program, we're hitting them. Is it 101 days straight with no misses? What does that look like?
Yep. So anybody heard of hard 75? Is that what it is? Hard
75 hard.
75 hard. Yeah, a lot of people have the challenges out there. So ours is not a challenge per se. It's everything we just described. But one small facet of it is see if you can go 101 days. So see if you can, they've got 5 things in 75 hard or hard 75, and other programs have things. Ours has our 101 day training program, 10 plus 1, highest leverage things that we believe you can do to activate your best self. I will quickly go through them. We will follow this up with a field guide, manual kind of overview of it. Number 1, you will make a daily commitment. You can do so in the app. You can do so via the offline journal, but you will, at the beginning of the day, make the commitment. Your attention follows your intention. So you've heard me say it a million times, right? If you want to know how your brain works, think about the last time you bought a car. The last time you bought a car, all of a sudden you saw that car everywhere. It was there all the time, but your brain hadn't been programmed to look for it. Once it was, your reticular activating system, you saw it everywhere, right? And that is what we want you to do with your commitments. Every single morning, you will start your day by committing to doing certain things, right? Simple process. And in the document, we'll talk about why that matters, how to do it, etc. The foundation, and then the elite, the foundation is you open the Heroic app or your journal and you log one thing you're going to do that day, just one. The elite is you go nuts and you do everything you could do in that regard. The second core behavior, now we get through our energy. Remember how we're going to operationalize Soul Force? Energy focused on what's important now consistently. So the second thing in the next set are eating, moving, sleeping. We have 2 core prescriptive levers you will pull: eating, moving, sleeping, each of which has a foundation and an elite level. The foundation for, if you want to write something, the foundation level for eating is one meal that day you follow, whatever nutrition protocol you set, and getting you clear on your nutrition protocol, we part of the -11 to 0. I'm going to coach you on how, I'll tell you right now, ChatGPT, I'm going to highly encourage you to consider using, or your favorite AI engine. Do this if you feel inspired. Type in, my favorite nutritionists are X, Y, Z. For me, it's Georgia Ede, Peter Attia, Casey Means, Gabrielle Lyon, and who else did I throw in there? Chris Palmer. These are my favorite nutritionists. Tell me what they would tell me to eat. Give me a nutrition protocol. And they'll tell you. Well, what can I eat? What can't I eat? Oh, okay, then boom, I give it right back to you in seconds. So your nutrition protocol will be different than mine, but we want you to get clarity on what you're committing to and then eat one meal in that regard as a floor foundation and go all in. Don't cheat would be the elite level. And then you go to the second nutrition target, which is your last bite. The science on fasting windows and eating windows is insane. That's worth paying attention to. Your risk for cancer goes up dramatically if you don't have a long enough fasting window. So the last bite foundation is finish your last meal 1 hour, the floor, before you go to bed. The target elite is 3 to 4 hours, right? You keep your streak alive. You want to keep all these targets alive for 101 days. Then we move to movement. Movement foundation is 1 minute. Put on your shoes. Can't even get out of bed? Perfect. If you can, at least get out of bed to go to the bathroom, put on your shoes and just walk in place for a minute. You're the version of you that does what you say you will do, even at the most wise, simple level. That's your foundation. The target will be more like 30 minutes of movement with active recovery, of course, just very mellow walking, maybe get a massage. On my recovery days, some days I won't move 30 minutes. I'll get a massage. Perfect. I moved by not moving on a massage table. That's my recovery. Unfortunately, I do not get one every day. And I can't remember the last time I got one. Note to self, get one. So now we've got our first 4 targets. We committed. We're following our nutrition protocol. We have our last bite before we go to bed at a certain time. We're moving daily. And the 5th one is a really fun idiosyncratic thing. I train as little as I possibly can to feel the way I want to feel. Literally, I do not work out hard. I don't do any of that, right? And, you know, but I do my sun salutation, 10 pull-ups, 100 burpees, 11 at a time. I row 1,000 meters and I walk 10,000 steps. So I show up and get my VO2 max done, and I'm at the highest level on my VO2 max company. Superior is all they go up to. Not quite top 2%, but top 5%. And one thing I do that I think is fun that I want to make part of our heroic elite is I measure my resting heart rate in the morning and I get it up 101 beats every day. So this morning it was 45, so I got to get it to 146. There are asterisks to this. Some of you have a very high resting heart rate, and it will not be possible, literally mathematically, for you to get it up 101 healthfully. Perfect. Your foundation is get it up 1 beat, but measure it. Know what your resting heart rate was and get it up. Target would be 51 beats, which is more doable for most, but not for everybody. And then the elite standard would be 101. I believe that's one of my secret weapons, is that, bam, I get it up once and I feel great, et cetera. Longer chat. That's our 5th target. The 6th is now we're going from eating, moving to sleeping. 2 targets for sleep. Number 1, time in bed. I was working with ChatGPT on this first, and I said, hey, I've always talked about, in Coach, I talk about efficiency. And you know, if you've been through Coach, I talk about efficiency, which is different than sleep. How long you spend in bed is not equal to how much sleep you got. Period. For no one. If you are elite, you're 90%. If you're Michael, you're 94, 95%. He's insane, right? Elite is 90%, unbelievable performance. 85% is very good. So you need to know what sleep you're actually getting. And that is related to how much time you spend in bed. So the target we're going to set for you is 8.5 hours in bed. That's your elite level. The foundation level is, all right, you're not quite there, but spend 30 minutes, extra minutes in bed than you typically do. Foundation, elite. We got 2 layers that you can hit. Then the other sleep thing is your digital sunset. Again, the science is unequivocal here. If you blow up your brain with blue light stimulation, intense stuff, whether it's a TV show or an email or social media or the news, God forbid, you are going to have a very difficult time falling asleep and having high quality sleep, deep or REM. You're likely to get up in the middle of the night, and I'll teach you my protocol of what I do when I get up in the middle of the night in detail, but good luck with that. Digital sunset. Foundation, at least 10 minutes before you go to bed. Just out of principle, put your phone away, put it in airplane mode, or whatever you need to do with emergency access to you. Quit staring at your phone and your screens. The elite version is a full 90 minutes before you go to bed, 60 to 90 minutes. foundation up. That's number 7, digital sunset. Then we collapse breathing and focusing into one target, which is your meditation, heroic meditation. The floor for that is 1.01 minutes or 1 breath. You did it. The elite is 10.1 minutes. You want to go Michael crazy on it? Do that 10.1 AM and PM. I and Alexandra will record the same meditation that you can use as guided meditation. 2 different ones, AM, PM. AM is kick your day off, let's go. PM meditation is, hey, how'd we do? Let's be grateful, let's reboot, let's win or learn, and let's set the intention for tomorrow. That's the 8th target. So again, everything is operationalizing Soul Force, energy focused on what's important now. The fundamentals, eating, moving, sleeping, each have 2 targets. Then we have 1, breathing and meditation, focus and breath into 1. Then we got to get the energy focused on what's important now. But you can't show up powerfully in your work or your love unless your energy is at heroic levels, which is why we're so relentless on energy. Science says your energy, your zest is the number 1 virtue most highly correlated with your flourishing, which is why we're going to get you up. But then you got to focus it on your work and your love. So for work, and again, my and our creative challenges to make this effective and comprehensive, yet simple. There are an infinite number of things we can encourage you to do. We boiled it down to these 10 simple things that you can foundation and elite. So for work, we have 1 target. I want you to do 1 minute of focused work without stimuli on your most important task. For me, I do that before I do anything else. Alexandra can't. She's got 2 little deities, as Eknatheswaran would say, running around the house. She's reactive before she's creative.
It's also part of my work.
And it's part of her work, by the way. A whole nother conversation on the nuance to that. But I want you to spend 1 minute in focused, quote, deep work mode on the most important thing you said you needed to do creatively. I personally do it after a good night of sleep, after my meditation, etc. Except when I don't, I also flex at times. On Saturdays, I'm Emerson's wingman on chess tournaments. That's not what's important to me. What's important to me on those days, which took me a while to realize, don't try to bubble wrap this, dude. It's him today. It's him. Go do that. Be here for him. So that's 1 flex for me, but I still get that minute in. Of course, the elite level would be get 60 minutes of deep, deep focused work. When I talk to elite military officers and performers, military officers in particular, and I won't mention the gentleman with whom I was blessed to connect over dinner and many, many times in different contexts. This is what there's no busier human being on the planet and playing a more important role within the US military than this guy. Other guy's tied for first, but no one's at a higher level. But I told him this. I said, you have to lead yourself first. Before you allow inputs into your busy life, pause, even just for a minute, and think about what's most important for you as a leader. And this is Lead Yourself First 101. That's our 9th target. 1 minute to 60 minutes on what's important now. But 1 minute's a win. No shame. I will do that some days. It's not my win. My win is to be with Emerson. My win is to give the keynote I need to give. Or my win is to get out the door and work out real quick. The 10th target is love. The number 1 target we're going to encourage you to hit in love is phone-free time with loved ones. Again, this is unequivocally scientifically backed. From Love 0.0, spend phone-free time with yourself, meditating, connecting to your daimon, thinking while you're on a walk or whatever, with your intimate family, your spouse if you have one, your kids if you have them, your friends, of course. Put your phone away. Science is unequivocal. I've shared this so many times. Not only does it kill your productivity to have your phone on the table or the desk, it kills your connection. Randomized controlled trials. This isn't debatable. A lot of the science out there now is junk science. This is not. This has been replicated. Simply having a phone out will diminish your productivity because part of your brain's going there, and it will diminish your connection because part of your brain's going there. Out of sight, out of touch, floor, at least 5 minutes of intentional one-on-one or one-on-many connection with your loved ones, as defined by you. Elite is 30 to 60 minutes. Dedicated phone-free time. I promise you, you do a fraction of these things. If all you did was that one thing, I'd encourage you to do the energy things because you're going to be a grump in that time you're spending without your phone and you're not going to be present. So let's get your energy up. But I promise you, you'll be more productive and you'll be more connected than you currently are if you're not doing that. And my target is, again, than you've ever been if you do it consistently with the floor and with the target. Those are the 10 targets. I'm going to repeat them briefly. Then I'm going to give you the most important one. Number one, you make a daily commitment. Can be as simple as logging one thing, or it could be all in. Floor, ceiling. Can't repeat that enough. And then we go to energy. Number two is you follow your nutrition protocol, at least one meal. And it's your nutrition protocol, not mine, but yours. Number three, you have your last bite at an appropriate time to get the glymph going. Your body cannot recover and digest food. We live in an artificial world with artificial light, artificial timing of meals. We need that time with the last meal. Number three. Number four, you move daily, a minute to 30 minutes. Number five, you hit that 101 challenge if you feel so inspired, or you get up 1 or 51, floor, ceiling. Number six, time in bed. 8 to 5 hours time in bed equals about 7.5 hours of sleep at a really good efficiency. So we get the basic floor of 7.25, 7.4 hours of sleep, targeting more. At the very least, you can't, and I don't get 8 hours of sleep, 8.5 hours in bed all the time. Michael, we need to adjust this. Actually, this isn't quite it, because I need some asterisks for my paying the price model and for my out in the wild model, because there are times where I literally do not functionally have the time to be in bed because of flights. And then my time that I've got to give a keynote, for example, it's not mathematically possible. So we will need to polish that one such that it works, because that one doesn't work. I wouldn't be able to win that all the time. So we'll modify that. But the point I want to make here is there are times when I don't do this anymore, but I used to not spend enough time in bed because I can say this about myself, an idiot watching things online late. And then I would get out of bed and I wasn't in bed for 8.5 hours. That was a foolish, to use a less derogatory term. It was the opposite of wise. And so I want to distinguish between when life happens and your protocols get constrained versus when your demon happens. Those are two very different things, right? So me working hard and paying the price, and Alexandra getting out of bed and having a terrible night of sleep, that's an indicator she's doing it right, not wrong. But, and she never does it. She has never once, we don't have a TV, right? But she's never once stayed up late and I'm going to binge watch Netflix tonight because I'm uncomfortable with my challenges in my life and I want to numb myself. Never once done that. There's a difference between life happening and you flex and you going off the rails. But even when you go off the rails, you're going to do the most important thing, which is recommit the next morning, which I'll get to in a moment. Then we have the meditation, number 8. Then we've got work. You're doing at least 1 minute of focused work on what's important now. Then you got love, at least 5 minutes with a loved one without a phone. And then the most important is 10 plus 1. So the most important thing I hope I can support you with is what you do when you inevitably fall short. So what do you do when you miss all 10 of those targets? Stated positively, hit the floor on those targets and go try to have a really off the rails day. Go try to have just a circus is in town, you're a horrible person day. If you do even the foundational levels of those 10 things, you will have challenges, you will have quote bad days, but you will not have circus demon run days. You won't. And if you don't believe that, go test it. But let's say, unfortunately, you forget all of this stuff and you don't do any of it. Perfect. Perfect. The question is, what do you do the next morning? And this is the most important part of the entire program. We allow for you to have an incredibly bad day when you don't do anything and still win when you show up the next morning. We call that +1. And I want you to know that this is the most important thing that I have not effectively taught, that you will never hit every target perfectly. We needed to do a better job of setting floors. We weren't following the science well enough. You have to embrace floors as an important part of your protocol and let that be a win. And then I've got to do a better job of teaching you that the speed with which you recover from your inevitable gaps that you allow in. First thing is, you will not be elite every moment of every day. Dan Millman says there are no enlightened beings. There are no perfectly elite people. What you have are more or less enlightened moments. His line. So there are more or less enlightened or elite moments that we want you to create. But when you inevitably fall short, the number one thing I want to teach you is how to quickly recover, how to turn around a glitch, is what Phil Stutt says. You get disconnected, how fast can you turn it around? Speed is a force. The speed with which you could recognize you just went off the rails and get back on track is the number one thing I want to teach you. +1, 10 + 1. A couple other metaphors we'll talk about a lot. There's Marcus Aurelius's equanimity game, right? This is that operationalized. He says, when force of circumstance disrupts your equanimity, see how fast you can recover your balance, right? It's like the doll that gets punched and gets back to the balance. That's what I want to teach you. Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, his students would say, Master, O Sensei, you are so incredible, you never lose your center. And he laughs and says, I lose it all the time, but I recover it so quickly you don't notice. This is what I want to teach you. Expect the glitches. I can share this in this context. I just got a note that I will not share the details of. You all know we worked at Notre Dame, right? Blessed to spend day one preseason at Notre Dame. The boys kicked out, shaked out their legs, got a little warmed up, hit the gym, hit the really light workout in the morning. We got them for 3 hours, Michael and I, for 3 hours in the afternoon. Day one preseason. Forging men of excellence on and off the field to win a national championship. Day one, start of the season. Guess what we taught them? Every single thing we're talking about right now. Forging elite men of excellence on and off the field was actually the tagline for the event. 3-hour little workshop. Objective 1, 2, 3, 4. Objective 2, forge anti-fragile confidence. Rule number 1, a good hero's journey is supposed to be hard. You will get knocked down, guys. Full stop. First of all, the most important game and all the other things I teach, but you will get knocked down. I promise you that right now. You don't go to a hero's film, expecting the hero to sit on a beach and have an easy life. That hero is going to get knocked around. That hero is going to want to give up. That hero is going to look like they're going to lose. And then the ground punch comes in and they recommit. So we told them that. Then we taught them how to use those challenges as fuel for their growth. And I got a note, and if you follow college football, you know that they suffered a very, very tough loss early in the season. I looked at that and literally I'm like, let's go. Bring it on, as promised. We got the wind kicking up. Are we going to be the fire that uses that to get stronger, or are we going to be the candle that gets extinguished? Fast forward, that's the only game they've lost this year. And yesterday, get a note from somebody that apparently a couple of the guys on the team were saying that a reporter asked them, hey, how do you guys do it? How did you bounce back from that? And they referenced me and the work that we did and the talk that we gave, that we helped them forge that anti-fragility and respond to that enormous pressure, millions and millions of people counting on them to perform. And the fact that those guys had the humility to share that in that context, and the fact that we were able to impact in that short period of time leads me back to the point here. And we had a whole protocol for them to teach them. I won't share what we did, but we had a mantra, a word. It was our flip the switch protocol that was customized for them. So for us, it's flip the switch. Invite the best version of yourself to join. The moment the demon comes in, close the gap. How fast can you do that? That's the +1. And so that's the thing I'm most proud of and most excited about, is to increase the speed with which you recover by embodying the self-compassion, knowing you're not alone. It's not about you. Nothing's wrong with you. Of course you fall short. Be nice to yourself. Notice when you're not, but also be heroic about it. Shine a flashlight. That's not working. This is what I'm going to do differently next time, and recommit the next morning. That's the +1. That's the 11th, 10 + 1, 11th habit. That's the thing that will change your life the most. And then the playful game here is 101-day challenge to hit the foundation on those 10 + 1 targets. Not insignificant challenge, but not overwhelming. But you get 10.1 strikes. You can go off the rails 10 times, because what I care about most is you show up the next day. You show up the next day. You show up the next day. If we can together, get clarity on this, stand it up, execute it through the journal, support it by the app. My confidence,
More than 2 days too.
and you can't do, this is the female energy coming in here, and not 2 days in a row. You do it 2
We
days in a row.
actually debated on this.
No,
and I
no,
was like,
sh-
no, you need to have,
no.
you need to have this.
And she brings the heat. Can't do it 2 days in a row. We'll give you 10 days of oops, but I recommitted. But you do it 2 days in a row, it's habit suicide. Be wise enough and disciplined enough and elite enough to recognize when you went off. And by the way, the worse the day you had, the more excited I get when you recover. That's exciting to me. I have no problem with you going completely off the rails. And I joked with the team yesterday, for me, nutrition-wise, my off the rails is very, 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 very mellow. My dad drank more than enough for my entire family for generations. I don't drink. I've killed the really bad, technology habits. And my nutrition's, my version of going off the rails is very, very mellow. I go out to dinner, I have some sourdough bread with my hamburger. Oh, okay, cool. I'll have some French fries. Awesome, let's go. But then what I do is then I'll go, oh, screw it, I've already done it. So let's go to Whole Foods, and I'll complement that with one of those big bags of mangoes, 6 servings. Boom, those are good. Hey guys, let's get some custard. We never eat ice cream, but that'd be great. That granola that I know doesn't work for me, awesome, let's go. I know.
No, he'll text me, should I get granola? And I'm like, no.
All caps.
Then I
You
have to
don't
hear
do it.
for it for days of like,
I'm not allowed to go shopping. I get a list and Kristen's like, what in the heck? I'm like, I bought everything on your list. She's like, yeah, and you bought friggin' like 3 times more stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, but the central point is here. If you do it one day, don't do it 2. And I had a +1 on this the other day that people loved. If you do it 2 days, definitely don't do it 3. If you do it 3, don't do it 4. If you do it 4, don't do it 5. I just did it 5 days with Thanksgiving, which is one of the reasons I'm saying I was still fine in quotes, but mediocre version of me, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited about this. Don't do it 2 days, but again,
no,
turn it
I
over to
just,
you. The
no, I just
intensity
want to
of
jump
that.
in because those of it, I like the one day, but that doesn't mean when you have the awareness, I've screwed it up, I'm going down, that you're like, screw it. We might disagree a little bit on this, but I just want to be mindful of like, you're not like, whatever, I'm just gonna eat 5 bags of chips versus 1, or whatever, I'm just gonna stay the rest of the day on my computer because I already messed it up. So just those moments
But
of
if
like,
you do, let's finish this off.
if you
But
do,
if you
it's
do,
okay, but try not to.
but if you do, and this is where I'm actually more feminine, compassionate. If you do, I tell you, go off the rails. And again, don't do stupid things. Like there are certain things that we each do that are just catastrophically foolish. Don't do those things anymore, to be clear. Full stop. But if you decide to playfully, yeah, let's go. Here's my request. Show up the next morning and then show up with more intensity. Do not use that as the opportunity to give up. And the reason why you follow her advice is if you do completely run through guardrail after guardrail after guardrail, it's going to be significantly harder to show up the next morning, to which I still say, show up. And I want you to hear me in your head saying, I love you. Congratulations. You're elite. There are no perfect human beings. You weren't going to be the first LFG. That's me supporting you. Couldn't get more excited about it. The wind is up. You're the fire. And the other metaphor I didn't share is Steve Chandler says, you build a fire one day, you activate your soul force one day. Guess what happens overnight? Goes away. Little ember, you got to rebuild it. But if you wait a full another day, that ember goes away. And it's a lot harder to start a fire than it is to keep it going, but you got to rebuild it. Phil Stutz says on the physical plane, you build a chair that you sit in, it is there the next morning. On the spiritual plane, he says, you build a chair spiritually one day, it's not there the next day. You have to rebuild it. Now, the components are there, but you have to rebuild it. That's what I'm talking about here. Recommit, rebuild the fire if it got a little bit extinguished. And that's the most central part of our program. I know you had a ton of things you wanted to say, and I just was on a roll there, so I wanted to focus. But I would like Alexandra to share some thoughts to the extent you wanted to go through your list there. She's got I'm like, I can't look down at this. Like, look at this. This is what happens when we get going. What do we got?
Well, I love all of that. I feel like I'm going to echo it, but there's a few things on it of just the power of simplicity and intention and consistency that this is. Like, we can look at this list and be like, whatever, we kind of do these. But I would say every single one of us on this call has an elite version that we're not doing. and what could actually happen in each one of these domains. I mean, what if you actually followed a nutritional protocol that worked for your body and you became like lights out, super healthy, vibrant, stronger than you have ever been in 101 days? That's possible. What if your sleep is way better? What if you're focused? Like, what if you finally created that project or started that business or got the clients you wanted in 101 days? Like, these are micro moments. And I think just to emphasize the idea of mastery, and that those micro moments and those habits, as we all know, are so important. But we have been trained to look at the winning team or the movies, like everything's great, everything is amazing in 2 hours and the peak experiences. But this is really focusing on those micro moments every day and how much that's truly revolutionary. So just thinking about those of like, wow, if I actually did these for 101 days, what would my life look like? Like really feeling into that. Like you could be an entirely different person. Like, what if you showed up in your love and you became the person that you want to be in your love relationship? What if Kimmy, you found her soulmate in 101 days? I mean, like, what if you had these goals and you actually accomplished them? Like, we would be celebrating in 101 days. So I do want to emphasize the power of that.
And I want to riff on that, and I want you to go back to your list. If you recall in the beginning, about 2 days ago, at the beginning of this chat, I mentioned, or was it 2 hours? I don't know. It feels like it was 2 days ago. I mentioned the SMART goals aren't smart, and the heroically H3 SMART goals, the heroic goal setting thing we're going to work on. One facet of it I didn't mention that I want to bring up right now, because it's related to what Alexandra said, is there are 3 types of goals we're going to help you set. There are outcome goals, which are, wow, my waist to height ratio is 0.5, or it's approaching 0.5. That's amazing. My VO2 max is in the above average or the superior or the elite level. That's amazing. That's an outcome goal. My number one thing I've got is to deliver for you, right? So we're going to have some outcome goals on that of what are the ratings for how we did, you know? Outcome goals are driven by process goals. So every single one of the targets we just described for you are the daily mundane habits. And as she started to say, you look at elite performers and you think they're just amazing, but we all know that that's silly. Those individuals focus on their fundamentals with more ruthlessness than anybody else. Kobe Bryant 101. Why do you think I'm the best in the world? Because I've never gotten tired of the basic fundamentals. So the outcome goals and the process goals are connected, and we're going to get you obsessed. We're going to get you to set exciting outcome goals. Then we're going to get you obsessed about the process goals, and we're going to let the outcome be a byproduct of your 101 days of excellence. And I guarantee you, flourishing, big 3 biometrics, if we can get you ruthlessly obsessed on the floor, simple, daily targets for 101 days, you will transform your life. Next level. In between, there's something called performance goals that we'll talk about another time. But that's like, I want my aura score to be in the 90s. That'd be awesome. If I can get a 90 sleep score, that's a performance goal, which is a result of your process, but not quite an outcome. The outcome would be all the other downstream things on your biometrics, et cetera, when you aggregate performance goals. Another performance goal that I flirted with is rowing a 51K on my birthday. I turned 51 in May. I'm inspired by the Athenian rowers who created Athens, created our democracy. It was on the Athenian Navy. Whole chat we had in those different notes, right? Those guys rowed 50 to 100 miles a day. We hear a lot about ultra runners. I've never heard about ultra rowers. So I was so inspired, and I'm rowing harder, and I've changed my identity. I'm an Athenian SOF athlete, Special Operations Forces, blah, blah, blah. Now that would be a performance goal. For me, Michael's going to set one. Alexander's going to set one, I'm almost certain, in different areas. Of you can do something you couldn't do on day one. Maybe it's run a Spartan race. That's a performance goal, right? A time in the Spartan race would be an outcome goal as well, and all the biometrics. I'm not going to do that because this isn't about me. This program is not about me. It's about you. So I'm going to push myself in certain ways, but I don't want to, whole nother chat.
You're going to put yourself in love.
Yeah, exactly. So my number one thing in love is I've been terrible with my PM bookends. With Emerson, I was very good AM and PM until reasonably recently. although longer than it should be, I've not been good in PM. That's my number one personal target is playing. It's simple. It's playing with the kids. It's not just phone free time, but playing a game with the kids. And I'm so excited to hit that. There'll be asterisks when I'm traveling. But anyway, I said a lot. We'll come back to the details. 3 different tiers in the heroically smart goals. Back to you.
I love that. And I think it's important that part of the process is that we will help you create those performance and outcome goals. So on day 1, you're super clear, like you have it, you know what you're going for, and you know why you're doing these targets every day because you have that vision for your elite future. I also just want to share too, as Brian said, the energy of aliveness of like this being alive and the emphasizing the power of community, right? So that we are all doing this together and we are going to come together. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to grow. We're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate people's wins. We're going to learn from people's challenges. Like that is really special, I think, in this program where we get to kind of like, we got to play together. It's like one big game. I mean, I like to think of things as a game so that we are really focusing on that. So I want to emphasize the aliveness and the realness of this. Like we are starting day 1, ending. Well, there's never an ending, but you know what I mean? It's 101 days that we're going to be doing this. And then the other thing I did want to add, because Calman, I don't know if he's on the call, had a really great thing yesterday when we were talking about, he's like, I mean, 1 minute kind of sounds wimpy. It kind of sounds weak, and I don't know if anybody's had that thought, but I think for all of us that maybe kind of like, you see the vision of who you want to be and what you want to do. You're like, I can totally do that. Right. And then I don't know about you, but I failed. I've seen that vision, but I'm like, yeah, that was a little too much of a stretch goal. And I really love the idea of the 1 minute because we are winning. And there's an energy of winning. I'm winning versus like, I'm failing, I'm falling behind, I'm not doing it again, like to cultivate that energy. So I love that we have those floors. I just want to address that for anybody who's like, that just sounds kind of wimpy. Like Brian said, if you do that, you've set the intention. If you also set that forward motion, you're going to end up doing more things. So those are my thoughts on what he said.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I get to get a bite in. Let's go. Michael, take us where you want to go. I don't know what we got going on, but we've obviously, time flies when you're having fun with friends. I am so happy we have covered so much. And as I chew rudely, what else we got?
Yeah. I think we hit most of the questions. We are going to have another one of these sessions. I believe that's next.
Let's ask for that because I don't know how we go beyond this. We'll talk about that separately. We'll figure out the scheduling on that. But dude, this is like, I'm already sitting here saying like, this is it. Put it up on YouTube, like put it everywhere. And every single thing we do from now on points to this. I mean, this is, I'm really happy with, and I hope you all are happy with the gestalt of what we discussed, knowing we covered a ton, but yet still just scratched the surface. But I hope this gave you insight into what we are thinking, what we are planning, and most importantly, how we are feeling and how we are fiercely committed to you. And I'll go back to where I started, which is there are 3 things that I believe I need to do. 1, I need to convince you that you are elite. As I said, that is not negotiable. There's not a part of me that is open to negotiating that with you. Full stop. Number 2, I need to wake you up to the fact that this is not a dress rehearsal. Today's the day to show up and start acting like that best, most elite version of you. And 3, I hope that I gave you some trust that we are competent and we are capable in delivering on what we have promised to you from day 1, which is if you use Heroic, if you engage in a program like this, then you will flourish. That's our fiercest commitment, to be in integrity to that promise we made the day that we founded Heroic Public Benefit Corporation. All of you supporting us, like as Marsha Linehan said, and I don't know if the email on my dad went out, Michael. Did that go out while we were talking?
Yeah, 2 hours ago. So I didn't want to distract folks, but
Yeah. So I sent an email on, I wrote a Dear Dad letter. I was inspired by Michael's incredible. I think it was one of the most beautiful things he's ever done. It gets me emotional. Just unbelievable. So I wrote an email saying, I've been obsessing about that, thinking about Michael, thinking about his dad as we frame up our program. And I said, you know what? I've been thinking about my dad a lot. My dad passed away 20 years ago. So the subject line for the email was something along the lines of Dear Dad, right? My Dear Dad letter. Preview that you see when you open the inbox kind of thing is my biggest quote failure and the lifetime fuel I got. I could never reach my dad who struggled with alcohol and depression ever. I was me with more hair and unfortunately not quite as much wisdom, not quite as much skill in being able to effectively help him. And I share the story. I've never shared publicly how he died, my last interactions with him. You know, the vision I have of my dad, when I think of him, there's some pleasant ones, you know, but it's him with his entire left side of his face black and blue, like gnarly black and blue, because he had fallen and slammed his face into a gutter, walking drunk out of a casino in Reno, and had to be medevaced via a helicopter to a hospital. I can vividly remember it like it was yesterday, sitting on his, in his house, talking to him, trying to help him see that he's capable of more, trying to guide him positively to close that gap. This is 25 years ago, now 21 years ago or so. So I'm 30, right? I'm passionate. I've got some ideas, reasonably motivating, but no skill, not enough skill, I should say, in being able to help my dad. The last time I remember talking to my dad ended with words I don't say in conversations like this, mutually, because he started talking about my mom. And it was one of those things of no, not going there. Last conversation I had with him, last visual representation I have with him, died 20 years ago, wrote a letter to him that you'll read when you get into your inbox. And I say, that was my greatest failure in my life, in quotes. Again, I'm practice my philosophy and I wouldn't change a thing. But Marshall Linehan, who I admire so much, one of my heroes, said beautifully, who created dialectical behavior therapy, which is the most powerful program to help people with suicidal ideation and other challenges like that. And again, I want to put our program at that same level. She says the most compassionate thing you can do for someone is to be competent in being able to help them through their despair and through their challenges. So I share that in that context, and I share that in this context, because what I hope I did more than anything is the three things I just described again. You are elite, non-negotiable. Let's close the gap. Let's wake up and let's activate. And I hope to bring, as I said, every single thing I have ever studied, practiced, and mastered to you in your own idiosyncratic way every single day with my beautiful wife. We've been talking about this for 18 years, first date. And that's heroic elite, you activated. I love you. We love you. And it would be an honor to be able to spend 101 days together. I appreciate you being here through this long video. That's what I got, Michael. I love you. I appreciate you deeply, dude. We don't do this. We don't do this without that guy. He is, I gave him, if you saw my celebration of Michael, Saint Michael, he is one of my heroes, one of my aspirations. And to be able to create this with my wife, with him, and with you all have already created this. 600 plus people responded immediately to our request, to our call to adventure to help us craft this. So this is a co-creative initiative. And as you've already heard me say so many times, we could not be more fiercely committed to delivering on our brand promise that if you use heroic, then you will flourish. Michael, that's what I got, and that's how I'd like to wrap it up. Have a great rest of the day, and look forward to seeing you, and I hope to see you soon.